Something that isn't talked about very much in the sport of arm wrestling is how to properly warm up before a match. Probably because no one cares. But there's a ton of different approaches to warming up. There's the most common method where we see athletes warming up on the table with other real-life human beings to mimic what they're about to do. Then there's people like Todd Hutchings who have a similar approach but without the real-life human beings. Todd has an entire system laid out including caffeine dosages, song selection, push-ups, curls, and eventually working up to an 80% side pressure 1-rep max with rubber bands often coming out for his matches covered in sweat. This is when Todd's perfect eyebrows really shine. And then there's Devon Larratt, who does this. So why does he do that? Let's find out. In order to understand why Devon warms up in such a strange and unorthodox way, we have to understand the fundamental difference in Devon's arm wrestling philosophy and that of Todd Hutchings and most other athletes. Devon is of the school of thought that any kind of warm-up he does where he actually arm wrestles is a waste of energy. Even if it's only at say 50%, he still doesn't want to do this. Devon wants to use every last ounce of energy he has in attacking his opponent, not his warm-up partner. So Devon doesn't like to arm wrestle people or rubber bands before his match. And this approach does make sense. If you were about to go run a marathon, you wouldn't go run a half marathon as a warm-up right beforehand. You would just be wasting all of your energy. So Devon is attempting to conserve energy. However, there are some obvious drawbacks to this system. The very most obvious drawback being a one-way ticket to Snap City. Although this isn't the only reason, a big percentage of the reasoning behind warm-ups is to prevent injury. And in this sense, you normally wouldn't run a 100-meter dash without running at least a little bit beforehand. And this analogy reflects the more traditional or Todd Hutchings warm-up style much better. Not only does Todd warm up to a very heavy weight to prevent injury, but he also does this because he believes it will make him stronger on the table. Whether you are warming up on the table or with rubber bands, the concept is the same. And this brings us to the meat and potatoes of this debate. In all honesty, injury is probably not the most pressing thought in Devon or Todd's minds. It's all about winning, and they're going to do whatever they think will give them the very best chance of winning. So let's take a listen to a clip of Todd Hutchings explaining why he warms up in the way that he does, and then we're going to hear from Adam Larratt explaining the Larratt style warm-up, and we'll compare the two afterward.
My warm-up routine before a competition. And if you're familiar with doing 1-rep maxes, you'll see that if you're not properly warmed up, you won't hit your 1-rep max. An hour before my first match, I take caffeine, take capsaicin, 15-20 reps, whatever you think it takes to get your lower back, your heart rate up. Followed by some push-ups, maybe 10 or so push-ups. Rising type hammer curls. Squeeze a tennis ball or something. Close grip push-ups with the band. We're doing the hammer curls again. All right, we're trying to generate that force. Not so much work, but force. And now we're gonna start warming up some side pressure. Trying to get those elbows warmed up. We're not trying to do max effort stuff, but we're trying to get about 80% of max,
So of course, Todd is trying to get general blood flow to the areas that will be used during the match, even his legs and lower back, but I think that the main focus of his warm-up is eventually getting to that 80% of 1-rep max force that he talked about. And he wants to hit this force in arm wrestling specific vectors like up pressure and side pressure. He wants to get his muscles, joints, and tendons ready to fire at 100% capacity. And it can be really difficult to do that if you are totally cold. Think about just showing up to the gym and loading your max deadlift onto the bar and just ripping it with no warm-up. Don't do that, you'll die. And in addition to that, Todd says that from his experience, warming up actually makes him stronger. Not only would he be risking injury by trying a 1-rep max cold, but he wouldn't even hit as much weight anyway. So from Todd's perspective, hitting around 80% of your 1-rep max in the vectors that matter is crucial for warming up before a match. Now, let's take a listen to the Larratt style warm-up that is vastly different.
45 minutes out, it's all about the breathing. You need to move, you need to breathe. In, out, through the mouth, nose. 30 minutes out, start the movement. Start moving a bit, just get blood through the arm. Getting it a little bit pumped, not pumped with any exercise, but pumped with movement and nice and fluid and warm. Then 5 minutes out, all about breathing again and motion again. Keep it nice and warm, move, breathe, just move the arm. Think about doing different pronations, rise, cup, everything. And once you've done that, you'll feel perfect for the match. You'll have expended basically zero energy, but you'll be in and ready to hit hard.
we can see that the Larratt style of warming up has a similar goal in mind, but a very different approach. Adam is attempting to get his body ready to fire at 100% without injury, just like Todd is. However, Adam is attempting to do this without lifting any heavy weights before his match. As we heard Adam say, the whole point of this style of warm-up is that by the end of it, you will have expended basically zero energy. And of course, in a perfect world, this would be more ideal. Even if working up to an 80% 1-rep max only wasted 0.5% of energy, it's still 0.5% that you won't get back. Another thing that is really great about the Larratt style of warming up is that you can pretty much do this indefinitely without having to time your warm-up. Especially if you are a tournament arm wrestler, most of the time you have no clue when you're going to arm wrestle. You might be going up to the table in 5 minutes or 2 hours. Nobody knows. So trying to perfectly time a warm-up like Todd's, where you gradually move up in weight, eventually finishing at 80%, hopefully around 5 minutes out from your match, is just about impossible. So what this means is that you will either have to arm wrestle before your warm-up was over, or you will finish your warm-up way too early, and then you'll need to hit more warm-up sets in order to stay warmed up. This is going to put more fatigue into your arm for no reason. But if you are using a warm-up like Adam's, you can just continue to implement these blood flow movement patterns every 10 minutes or so until your match, because they aren't going to be putting a lot of fatigue into your arm. So, overall, which one is better? The more progressive overload Todd Hutchings style warm-up, or the blood flow movement Devon Larratt style of warm-up? Of course, to a large degree, this will be very personal to the athlete. Some people will feel stronger warming up in one way over another. However, I do think that there is a pretty clear trend here. Todd Hutchings' opening move is a very joint-heavy move. He is incorporating a ton of side pressure into his matches right off the go. Devon and Adam Larratt, on the other hand, are normally opening matches with a top roll, and more specifically, an open top roll. This open top roll is not going to put near as much pressure on the elbow and shoulder joint as Todd's move will. I think that in general, the more inside techniques probably require a more thorough warm-up than the more outside techniques do. Perhaps this could be compared to a deadlift versus a lat pull down. The idea of doing a max deadlift cold sounds terrifying, but a max lat pull down cold doesn't sound too bad. I think that certain movement patterns are just more injury prone and require more total warm-up. So in general, I think that both the Larratt and Hutchings style warm-ups are different tools for different purposes. One isn't inherently better than the other, but in most cases, the more elbow-driven inside style of puller you are, the more time you should spend warming up. And you should probably warm up with heavier weights too. Let me know in the comments which style of warm-up you prefer. Hopefully this video helps you figure out which kind of warm-up will make you the strongest without also snapping your arm in half.